Welcome to another episode of the Simple Man Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Battisto, and today's guest is Dale Hanover. Dale has been a longtime ref in San Diego. He was actually a coach and a teacher at Poway High School and did that for a long time and then made the transition to refereeing. We're super excited to have him on the show. He's been absolutely crushing it with the Full Circle podcast, which, if you haven't checked them out yet, make sure you guys go and check them out on all the major social media platforms. Really doing a lot of great stuff. He's also building this kind of online academy where basically sharing referee curriculum, and he's working with local refs in California, but also referees across the country at the collegiate level, at the high school level, and is trying to actually build something that is going to kind of bring a lot of the different referees together. And it's pretty awesome. So if you guys haven't checked it out yet, just go on and check out Full Circle Podcast. Also, if you haven't liked to subscribe to our YouTube channel and Spotify, please do that as well. Really looking forward to this conversation. Al Fontes joins us on, and as always, it's always great to have Al Fontes on the show. Thank you guys for tuning in. We hope you guys enjoy the episode. Yeah, you're good. I like your setup.
Hey, thanks. It's our dining room.
Oh,
So
really?
really, it's my wife's all in. We have like this 1,400 square foot condo. So we don't have a lot of room down here in San Diego, but she's been wanting like acoustic paneling. So we basically moved the kitchen table out of the way. We put up some decorations. Normally, I have family pictures on the wall. So I basically take the family pictures down, put wrestling up, and then this is where we sit and we do our filming, and it's kind of fun.
That's a
So,
good
uh,
compromise.
hey, you know what? I think you guys have been around wrestling long enough to know that if you don't have a good support system, you're not going to be coaching, you're not going to be, in my case, officiating or writing or publishing. It takes a whole team, or you're going to be on an island by yourself. So I've been very, very lucky.
Same here, likewise.
Do you feel like and both of you guys can kind of chime in here, if you guys feel like is that part where you kind of just found the right person, or is that something where maybe they were open to it and you kind of had to like explain kind of what it is that what we do to kind of get them on board?
Well, I can go first. When I met my wife, we didn't grow up in the same town, but we were close by. She knew of wrestling. She knew of wrestlers, but I don't think she understood the passion behind it. I just like we're driven by it. We're just that rare breed that really puts a lot of energy and effort into it. And I explained to her that as an athlete, I'm missing. I failed in a few areas, and this is just another chance to give back where I didn't achieve as an athlete, and it's a positive. So she supports it 100%, and I love her for that.
It's awesome. For me, my wife she knew everything. So we started dating when I was wrestling at Cal Poly, and then basically we went full bore into teaching and coaching at Poway High. And we spend probably 30 weekends out of the year not in San Diego. And so it's all she knew. So I would get home 8 o'clock at night after practice. And so I did that for a long time. And when we kind of had that first budget crunch in like 2011 or 12, uh, they opened a new school, but they wouldn't hire anybody. They just shifted people around. And I was like the least tenured person in PE at Poway with like 15 years. So I got bumped. And that's kind of what got me out of coaching full time. And I said, okay, well, I'll officiate. And my wife was like, perfect. So many officials I know are like, oh, I got to get home. I'm doing like 1/5, 1/10 of the time I did coaching. And so my wife fully on board. She loves it. She actually is the one behind Full Circle Wrestling with like, you need a hobby. Both my boys have graduated college now, and they just are, we're at a different stage in our life. And so I don't want to go back to coaching full time. But yeah, so this is kind of what the fruit kind of bared from that support system, I guess. So very lucky.
Yeah,
It's
Dale,
kind of
I'll
interesting
agree.
how life takes you and just in different directions like that. Like so you were teaching at Poway and then you get moved to this new school and then it's like, well, that you didn't want to start a new wrestling team at this new school.
Actually, so I made a deal with the principal that I would start it the first year. And so kind of came in, got the program going, and went full on board. We're in the Poway district, so it's really tough. I mean, any kid in San Diego, well, not any kid, but most of the kids that are good are gravitating towards, these bigger schools like a Buchanan and a Clovis. And uh, for a long time in Bakersfield, it was Bakersfield High, like, and you can't argue with that coaching
No.
or that success, and kids chase where they want to go and do all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, it just kind of worked out like that. And the rest is kind of history, I guess. So once God kind of closed one door with coaching, it gave me more time to be at home. And then I took up the challenge of officiating, and it's been awesome. Now I get an even better seat, and I have far less headaches than coaching. So it's been good.
What are you gonna say, Al?
I was going to say, Dale, I agree with you. I mean, I coached for many years up in the North Coast section, and I was working full. I'm retired now. I was working full time, which was a full commitment job, family. So there is 24 hours in the day, and you have to learn to compartmentalize that time. Now that I'm retired, with the writing, promoting, which I've been doing for 35 years, the way I work it out with my wife and family is I'm an early bird. I'm up at 5:30 in the morning. I'm working on stuff. Then by 9 o'clock, I'm pretty much done with the bulk of it. Then I can spend time with my family. Then in the evening when they're watching their TV shows, which I don't really like to watch, be out there, working on new stuff. And so it's just a matter of, and I'm not tied down. As you know, as a coach, you're tied down. You're committed to times and dates and stuff here. But you are as an official, but in my writing, I just sort of flow and I just integrate when I can. So it's a
Good.
good trade-off.
When you guys get like ideas, like whether it's about, something for content or like you want to write something or like you're thinking about maybe somebody made a call that you're like, oh, I gotta give them some feedback, but you're with your family. Like, how do you kind of deal with that? Because sometimes I get a little bit caught up, and I'm getting better where I'm like, all right, this it can wait till tomorrow or it can wait till later. But how do you guys kind of deal with that?
I can start. Well, I do have responsibilities. Obviously, I'm a homeowner, so I got to mow my lawn, do my yard, do work around there. When I'm doing that kind of work, I'm thinking. There's not a day I wake up every day, what can I do to promote wrestling at a highest level possible? Every day I'm thinking that. California, Idaho, Utah, whatever, the United States. So I try to utilize time, multitask. As I'm working, I'm thinking and keep my mind on different things I can work on. So sometimes I get to the point where my wife's like, "Are you there?" Like you said, you're thinking, you're processing, and with technology, we can move quicker. We can get a lot more access to data and information, which has made life a lot easier. I don't have to travel far or make too many contacts to get some bulk of the information from my articles.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, that finding that work-life balance that's almost impossible coaching. Um, and you just kind of got to do it. But the officiating really wasn't difficult at all. It would just be weekends and a dual meet, and then. But our lives are so built around wrestling, and I think my wife knows that I wouldn't be the man I am today without wrestling. And my son wrestled and coach. So I don't know. There's always, as things pop up and close calls happen or people send me stuff, uh, my wife's watching them too. And my son, who won a junior college championship a couple years ago, now he's an official. And so we're looking at it from these lenses and trying to go, okay, was this the right call, not the right call? Why did we do it? And so for that, it was fairly easy. You just separate the two. The last 4 months here with Full Circle, with now starting a podcast and trying to, um, I'm writing this online curriculum for officials, and it'll be like the first in the nation that basically for a foundations course for officials and then an advanced course where I have 20 of some of the best officials in the United States that are like reviewing the curriculum. So for me right now, it's probably not a good work-life balance, as I think I'm doing 12, 14 hours a day in the summer right here, from 6 a.m. to like 9 or 10. But we're trying to get that curriculum launched by September 1st and see where it goes and have fun. But there's balance. Like my wife, she has a doctorate in physical therapy, and then 7 years ago she took a college professorship, and so she had to get a PhD. So we call her doctor because she has a PhD and a doctorate. But for 3 years that was her life too, and every waking moment was absorbed with that. And so we just kind of roll with it and we take advantage. And so we have scheduled date nights and balance it all out and some family time. And hopefully it all works. But I feel like it's definitely full, full throttle right now.
So, Dale and Brian, today now I'm retired. My life is a lot easier. When I say compartmentalize, it's so much easier to compartmentalize. When I worked at Lawrence Livermore Lab for 30 years, I worked in nuclear facilities, and in those jobs, that 8 to 10 hours a day, I had to compartmentalize mentally because I had to focus on the job. I mean, we're
Yeah.
talking critical decisions, critical things you got to work with daily. I didn't have time for thinking about wrestling, so I was able to do that, come home, be with the family. Then when we're done with that, I get into wrestling. I had to learn how to shut it off. I couldn't be thinking about wrestling when I was working because of the type of area I was working at required my full attention. That was difficult doing that for 30
Yeah.
years, but I learned to compartmentalize it. Now I can just go with the flow, but I understand where you're coming from. Working and life balance, it's tougher,
Yeah.
when you're working full time.
Yeah, what kind of called you to do this refing curriculum? Like, I know you've been refing for a while now, but was it something like, all right, like I gotta kind of help maybe these young guys kind of get up to speed, or maybe it's something where like you want to get a bunch of different refs to kind of come together and kind of be a part of something a little bit bigger, where it's like you talk about like interpretations of a call. And it's like you talk to one ref, they might do things a little bit different. You talk to another, they do things a little bit different, but kind of getting everybody on the same page. Is that maybe where it came from?
Uh, a little bit. The reality of kind of how it works is like if you look at like compare it to just coaching and wrestling, something's different at Penn State. Like they're just coaching different, they're recruiting different, Oklahoma State, those kind of things. And other schools don't have that same advantage money wise and all that. Well, officiating, what I learned as I started moving up was as you get better, you not only see better wrestling, but you get to hang out with better officials. And then I'm privy to their wisdom. And I'm like, that's what I need. Like anybody can read the rule book. And so, as a teacher myself for 30 years in San Diego, we've really reshaped how we kind of run our association. And we're really emphasis like our meetings. We have breakout sessions, we have scavenger hunts, we have all kinds of stuff where our officials are applying what they're trying to learn, and it's been really successful. We've gotten two guys to the state meet in the last 3 years that have never done the state meet, and people are buying into it. So other places around California and the United States were like, well, what are you guys doing different? And for the last year or two, they email and they call and they're like, okay, what do your meetings look like? What do you do? And I'm like, okay, this is clearly a need that some wrestlers or some wrestling officials are really awesome. They're really good, but they don't have that education background to really apply it. And so that's kind of where the worlds kind of came together. And so I just felt like No one else is doing it. Why not me? And if nobody buys it, if nobody watches, okay, no big deal. Like I get to talk wrestling. And so once a week, Connor and I sit down and we break down one or two calls and we get to talk and I'm getting better. And I feel like we just want to raise the standard. We'll never be perfect, but we want to continue to improve and we want to make good calls. And so, amazingly enough, I'm not the best official. I've done the state meet 8 times. I do college. I've done junior college and Division One. But the people that I reached out to, not one person said no, they wouldn't help. And I have five NCAA championship finals matches officials on this like inner circle of 20. And they're like, Dale, and I've never worked with any of them. And they're like, Dale, this sounds awesome. We would love to help out. And so I have high school state rules interpreters. I have two people who are college professors, and all they teach is online.
Mm.
And so they're looking at my curriculum and they know nothing about wrestling. But their job is to make sure that the curriculum is like solid, user friendly, and all of that. So I've been really blessed. Um, it's making my job and my life a lot. Like as I release modules, we're halfway through the first course, and I already have, they're going through all of this while I'm building the plane, right? And they are already sending like pages, and we have Google Docs and stuff like that with feedback. And they're like, okay, add this, do this, this is there. And it's been awesome. So it's kind of like that first year of teaching again, Brian, where you're like, oh, I got to figure out what I'm teaching tomorrow. And so I have my Google Calendar and it's all laid out. And yeah, I I'll be busy from July all the way to end of August with basically 10 hours a day of curriculum and finding video. That's
Mm.
one thing that officials, they read the book, but the hours that I spend looking for video, or sometimes it's just not time productive to look for videos. Like I'm working on a segment right now with illegal holds, and I spent 5 hours and I think I found two. And I'm like, okay. So now I grab my son, I grab his friend. We're going in the wrestling room on Friday and we're filming every single illegal move. And so just having cameras and mics and locations and finding things, to me, it's super challenging, but I love it. And it's been fun. So and hopefully it'll make officiating better. I know it will for me because this is insane the amount of time and effort is, and I work pretty hard as an official, but it's been fun. So
Dale, you're doing a great job. What you're doing is long overdue. We always talk about grow wrestling. We got to grow officiating. We got to get younger people out there. Just the fact that you create connectivity and you're making sense of the rules and what's going on. There's a lot of perceptions. Remember when Rulon Gardner won the gold? I can't tell you how many people said, "What did he do to win the gold?" They did
yeah,
nothing because they keep changing the rules and people can't interpret the rules. Although collegiate style doesn't change as much, there has been some changes in near falls and the 3-point take. I mean, we're all still going two. No, actually, it's three, right?
yeah,
Because it's been ingrained in us. But here's the difference between today and 20 years ago. We got the media, we got the internet. We can create this connectivity. We don't have to depend on any other major news outlet. We can do it ourselves. And what you're
yeah,
doing is growing the sport of officiating. It's not just officiating, it's what you can do to sustain a long tournament. You got to be in shape. You got to
yeah,
train the body mechanics. You watch some of these Division One guys, they are solid, right, at the
oh, very,
NCAA, and they're in
yeah,
shape. I mean, these guys are training. I mean, they're training to officiate, and they don't make too many mistakes. And no, I think what you're doing, I enjoy your podcast, and it's
oh,
really
thank you.
it's really resonating. You're doing a great job, so keep it up.
Well, kudos to Brian. And some of the other podcasts out there that I've been following for years.
Hmm.
And really, honestly, like I love to talk wrestling. So, but that's not my primary purpose. Like my primary mission on this was officiating. It's just kind of like I couldn't just create content for officials if the officials didn't know who I was. And so I literally had to start social media 3 months ago. I did not have a TikTok. I did not have Instagram. I had a Facebook. That was it. And I had to start and learn all of this. And so it's been a whirlwind, and it's been a lot of fun. But I do hope ultimately we use technology and we use like my 30 years of teaching with some solid officiating, um, to really teach our next generation. I mean, I think about how lucky I was to have Randy Hartman, Jimmy Chen, Corey Salmon, um, Carlos Mansell, and all these officials that are like, hey, when you have the right attitude and you're willing to work hard, they'll help you. But not everybody has the access to those people. And so my goal is now, guess what? I have 20 of some of the best minds in wrestling across the United States, 13 states. And now we're kind of making it purposeful. We're not winging a meeting, that these officials can go through 10 modules and learn something. And the advanced class, I'm super excited for. It is literally, it's it's nothing in the book, and it's all video, and it's all like topics. You talked about like 3-point takedown and things like that. We can go 10 times deeper in what leg pass and where's control established. And college makes it a little easier now with neutral danger, but high school, there's still not a lot of mechanics to defend a leg pass takedown where they kind of hold in a Winn-Dixie or something like that. And so we're trying to sort this out and bring awareness of it. And it's been fun to do the podcast. And next week I have Adam Tirapelli on. And Brian, that guy, he knows so much.
Yeah.
And the reason I actually asked him was I actually did his son's um blood round match at state this year, and he lost. And to see Adam shift from coach to parent right there on the edge, I was so impressed. Not that I'm not impressed with his coaching as national champ, but the fact that he could also be a dad and balance that. When I see coaches going ballistic at their wrestlers or parents going ballistic, I'm like, you know what? The world needs to see this. And and Adam's like very point blank and talks about things like, you know what? I'm gonna make my kids wrestle. Might not be popular, but there's very few sports that can teach what wrestling teaches at the level it teaches. And so I started releasing like reels. Oh my gosh, one of his has gone viral. I think in Facebook we're almost 500,000 views right now. And then at Instagram we're close to probably 300,000. Uh, and so I'm excited. Next Tuesday that will drop. But
So which one is that, Dale? Which one went
it
viral?
hasn't been released yet, but it's
Okay.
I do a whole hour with Adam Serpelli, and really the focus is a little bit on him, a little bit on how he accomplished, like to try to help coaches and training, but a lot about parenting and how to balance that coach and parent. And so I try to look for angles. Uh, I have Jose Campo coming on in a couple weeks, and he's the team chaplain for USA Wrestling. Oh my gosh. Like, what do you tell Kyle Dake when he doesn't make the world team and the guy like almost never loses? How do you, his mind is amazing. Stephen Neal. Um, and then just to talk to wrestlers, it's fun. But ultimately, we're going to dial in, and I'm working on the content for officials. And my ultimate goal is to have a one-stop shop for and we're going to honestly give most of it away for free on YouTube, just because I feel that strongly about it. When I bring in these NCAA guys and we spend 30 minutes on stalling in the neutral position, these guys will talk 2 hours, but we break that down and then we release it. We'll give it to everybody, but then in the course, I'll use that and we'll go deeper and we'll talk about like, well, why is that? And here's situations for it. So um, I don't know where it will exactly go, but hopefully it'll be a good thing. And like you guys, we get to talk wrestling, right?
Yeah, absolutely. With these modules, is this going to be something that you're going to put on like a website and like somebody can kind of subscribe and then like pay like to have access to? So how
Yes.
do you kind of graduate and go through the course?
So I am using like they call them LMS, learning management system. The one that I picked is called Learn Worlds. And so Brian, you've been in education and we have, all of our Blackboard or whatever the
Yeah, Canvas, Blackboard.
Canvas, exactly. Um, so literally for a month, I researched 9 different platforms. And I picked Learn Worlds because it's good for video. I can literally show a video, pause the video, and not let the official move on until they answer and interact with questions. So it's not passive learning. They cannot get through it if they're not putting in. And it's so detailed that when they pick the wrong call, I explain why that's wrong.
Hmm.
And so we just kind of keep going through that. And the foundations is mechanics and positioning, but that's even important in the advanced stuff. So just trying to find all this content is like all encompassing with research and then all the different apps. But yeah, Learn Worlds it's about $150 a month just to run the platform. So we'll see. This year is definitely going to be a a loss, and so I've already spent all my refing money from last year, and but my wife's all on board, and we're going to keep running. And I have some families and some connections that have offered, but I'm trying to make it. I don't mind spending money on wrestling, but the course I'm going to drop the course for $57. That's it for like 10 hours of high quality stuff that they can have for a whole year. So I think it'll be well worth. I mean, they can make more than that in a duel, and the advanced class would be a little more, but it'll still be half of what they'll make in a day at a tournament. And so trying to get officials to think about officiating the way wrestlers do. Like, how am I getting better? How am
Hmm.
I improving? What am I going to focus on? And I ask officials all the time. They'll be like, "Hey Dale, will you watch me and give me feedback?" I go, "Yeah, tell me the 2 things you're working on." And they're like, "Well, I don't really know. I haven't thought about that." I'm like, "Well, if you're not working on something, you're not going to get better. You can't just randomly go out there." So not only do I set goals for my year, I set goals for every tournament. And when I walk into a duel or a tournament, I have one specific thing that I tell myself I'm going to correct and make sure. And so teaching these kind of like, the coaching aspect, right? We're teaching wrestlers to be dedicated, to have goals, to set those and challenge yourself. Then we take that to officials and then I go, "Okay, show me your video." And they're like, "Well, I didn't video." Well, how do you know what you did? And so it's just some people now we need everybody. Don't get me wrong. But like we don't have enough officials. And in every sport, like I thought, oh, it was just wrestling. Now football has to run like games on Saturday or games on Thursday because they don't have enough football officials. So it's something that we're trying to bring light to, trying to encourage younger people. I'm trying to show coaches, and I know Brian, you and I talk, and a lot of officials or a lot of coaches respect officials that they see all the time and that are working hard. And then when you see somebody that you don't know, it's a little different. And so I'm trying to educate coaches and parents that, hey, we're not making this up. We're trying. And that's really what I want officials to do, is to kind of have a roadmap where how they can get better. And so some of it is mechanics and rules interpretation. Some of it is just how to be professional on the mat, how to treat wrestlers and coaches with respect, and all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of covering everything, but the Learn Worlds is a pretty good platform. And so once after about a month, I picked that. We're all in on Learn Worlds and going from there. So
Yeah,
So
I mean, I
Dale,
think
oh,
go.
sorry.
Well, no, I was just gonna say that I think this would be something even coaches would want to do. Like, I mean, when you hear about this course, it's like I want to get a better understanding of the rules, and what I like about it is that it's interactive. It's not just reading a book. Like, I can read the rules book. You know what I mean? And just having wrestled and been in the corner long enough, like I can understand context that I've been in, where okay, I know this rules applies, but it would be good to see like a kind of a random example, and then I have to actually kind of get quizzed on it for me to actually be able to interact with it and be able to understand it more. So I think there's a huge value in that, not just for officials but for coaches. Be a better understander of the rules. That way, if you're in a situation, you can kind of do your part as a coach better.
yeah, I think they need wrestlers and coaches need to know what's going on in our brain. And the better we can communicate that, the better life is. And so I think the advanced class is going to be a lot more geared towards that. And there'll be some coaches that would really benefit, because we can literally compartmentalize stalling on referees. And we're going to spend a half an hour to an hour showing nonstop situations, and then stalling from neutral. And I'm sure this year we're going to need to really coach officials at the high school level up on stalling, backing out, stalling, pushing out, or action. And so they're going to need to know what that is. And we still hear it from college coaches sometimes, especially junior college. Well, how do you know when he's pushing out or backing out? Or like a high school coach will ask, well, how do you pick who's stalling? And I'm like, great, coach. Let me explain to you my logic and walk you through my steps. And they're like, hold on, you actually have a process. And I'm like, 100%. And now it's your job or my job to teach those wrestlers what they need to look for. Like I always tell every wrestler, I go, hey, center, action, contact all mean the same thing. I think someone's stalling. I won't tell you who, but that's a pre-warning. And so if your butt is to the edge and you hear center, guess what? You go out of bounds, 100%, I'm going to call you for stalling. So you already can kind of get inside of my mind of what I'm thinking and what I'm doing. And I think that would help coaches coach better. It will help officials have a system, because stalling is probably the control, reaction time. Those are the top three. Those are things that, uh, like I have a whole unit on control, and it's so bizarre. They'll define control with three things, but then they won't define what those three things are. So, example, restraining power, no definition on restraining
Oh,
power, position of advantage, and beyond reaction time. Not one of those three are defined in high school or college. They're up to the official. And I'm like, you know what? I don't like that. We need to make it a little more concrete. And so I'm like, this has been like 2 weeks on this module trying to figure out, how do I articulate control, and how do I define reaction time, and let's get a consensus. And so I feel like stalling's there, control a little tougher, and reaction time, I think even college right now, we're having kickback. Like we went from almost no reaction time to about 5 years ago. Now everything is reaction time. And now people are like, sometimes they wait a little too long. And so we're trying to figure out what that balance is. I just keep plugging in. I make phone calls and I talk to these officials that have done 10 NCAA finals. And I'm like, help me understand that call. Help me understand. And they're like, no problem. Let's talk. And we spend a half an hour talking about this. And so I want that to be available for every official.
So
And yeah, go ahead, Al.
no, I'm processing, and you're saying this. I'm always thinking, I mean, you look at wrestling. We go back when you were wrestling, what, in the late 80s, right?
Uh-huh.
89, you graduated. And you go back to the 50s, it was one-dimensional wrestling. You see these guys wrestling in college. If you took an official from back in 1959 and went through a time machine to now, they get on the mat, they don't even know what they're looking at.
Yeah.
Wrestling keeps evolving, and it used to be like a slow trajectory of change like this. Now it's exponential because we have access to more wrestling around the world. Kids can watch CITF, they can watch Sajaliaf, they can watch Burroughs, and these kids, no different than when Jerry Abbas, who was in your weight, right? Jerry and
Yep.
Javier, you had a tough weight group. Heck, you had Tony
Oh,
Okada in your weight.
dude, I
And you
had
had Dwayne
all
Zink,
American.
and that weight was loaded that year. Um, you had Abbas hitting low singles because he learned from John Smith. You had Tony Akata the next year he was rolling through. And as official, if you don't never seen that, how do you score that? So what you're doing with the internet world, the problem with change in the old days is here's the change. It goes to a board. They discuss it. It could be 3 years later before the book is published and redone with the new change. But by then, now things are changing so quick. So I think the process of what you're doing and having a forum, I'm sure, and with technology, I'm sure they can analyze, get the forum together, redo the rules and change faster and quicker because the wrestling is evolving faster and quicker, right? And
Yeah,
that
we
being
got to hold them accountable.
exactly because it's happening so fast, but people don't get the memo because they're not paying attention, but they have to pay attention because things are changing. Um, Based on all the changes in wrestling, the one rule I don't like, I hated it in college, is writing time. Do you still think writing time in college is relevant based on today's style of wrestling? Is it really impact the sport? Is it something we should keep or should it, remain?
Um, I'm 50-50 on riding time. I let's face it, you end up a match and you got 3 to 4 minutes of riding time. It's usually probably not the most exciting.
No.
Um, some of the data that so NCAA has a ref quest kind of thing, and we get data on how many points are scored, all that kind of stuff, and that inside information afterwards, or how many calls are reversed with the independent review versus your own. One of the things that I always looked at when they're kind of giving out that data is what, like you said, what is really happening. And while the points haven't gone up, what really has changed is the amount of tech falls and the emphasis on riding with a 4 point near fall. And it's incredible. And so I think while the scoring hasn't changed statistically, but we only have like 3, 4 years worth of data at the
Mhm.
NCAA level, I anecdotally see the change happening rapidly in high school. Like these matches there's techs in the first period. And I mean, when I wrestled, the ultimate was like, hey, let's pin, let's pin, let's pin, let's get most outstanding. And now kids are like, nope, let's get on and off the mat. Let's compete, let's win and dominate, and then let's recover for my next match.
Mhm.
And you see maybe less pins, but more action. And so I'm kind of torn. I If they got rid of it, it wouldn't be a big deal to me. I'm a big fan of the 3 point takedown. That
Mhm.
differential between a
Changes
two and
the
a one
tempo.
and a three and a one. I'm a huge fan of neutral danger
Mhm.
because there were so many stalemates in college with the diving through of the Abyss roll or the Gator roll, and then they end up, like parallel in a no-win situation. And You watch NCAA's 6 years ago, 7 years ago, there was nonstop stalemates. And guess
Hmm.
what? Now we very rarely are bailing them out. And high school, they've, I think, improved a lot also. So we don't have as many stalemates in high school either, because the kids knows, hey, let's work through it. And I tell them all the time, hey, keep wrestling, improve. And I want them to wrestle through situations and teach them not to just dive in and look for a stalemate. And got some other tools in our toolbox with that. But I think the riding time, Al, is something I'm 50-50 with, but I'm not that. I don't know. What do you think, Brian?
Well, I talked to Adam about this to Rapelli, and he said that it would be great if we had like you had to get a turn in order to be able to get that
Hmm.
riding time, which I
Oh,
Hmm.
understand. Because I think when I was trying to think when you kind of boil it down, like why do we have these rules? Is you're trying to figure out who the best wrestler is. But I think it's if you want to grow the sport, you want to encourage scoring. And I think there's a balance that we kind of have to find where you don't want to go like all the way one way or all the way in another. I think there's a way where you can kind of accomplish both things, try to make wrestling more exciting and figure out who the best wrestler is by encouraging scoring. I think with the Ryan time part, selfishly, I prefer keeping Ryan time, just because in my brain, it's like that's kind of how I could be kind of competitive is I can be competitive in the top position, but as someone who doesn't compete anymore, it doesn't really matter. But I think I don't know. I definitely want to see people trying to score more often. I think it's something where you see this more when it gets into like those close matches and we're going into like overtime or maybe not going into overtime because somebody has Rhine time. It's like as a fan, it's like I don't necessarily want to see that. I would rather see somebody getting after and going to get a score. Or if we're in those like 30-second rideouts, or do we really want it to be determined by, who has, seconds of riding time and that's ultimately who's going to be the winner. I don't agree with that. So I think there's a balance that we can find. If anything, maybe getting rid of that kind of tiebreaker scenario where it's like riding time kind of determines who the winner is in those 30-30s. But other than that, I mean, I don't know. I'm pretty open. I was not very open on the 3-point takedown. I was like, this is silly. Why are we doing this?
I love it.
But yeah, I mean, obviously, just kind of watching scoring happen. I wonder if the data over time will kind of show like how maybe wrestling has changed because of it. Like I know we see more techs, and it's had a higher impact level with the high schoolers. But on the college level, our guys after they get a takedown, they're wrestling less, not as hard. Which again, how do you kind of show that with the data? I don't know.
I think, well, you brought up Adam. Adam's very opposed to overtime altogether. And so you talked about like all one way or all another. So let's compare folk style with freestyle. Freestyle, you got 5 to 10 seconds to turn them, and then you're back up. And so you're on your feet basically the whole match. Folk style, I don't know if the rules were written for the better wrestler, honestly. Folk style was written for control. You can't score points if you don't have control. And so I think riding time is a component of control. And that makes it a little more challenging. But in Adam's talk, he like thinks wrestlers in that last 1 minute or period are like, you know what? If I take him down right now and I tie the match, he's going to escape. I lose. And so they like wait and they go, oh, overtime's coming. Or they kind of like they don't go 100% for 6 minutes or 7 minutes. So his idea was adopt the freestyle. Guess what? Whoever has the most near fall, whoever has the most takedown, there's a criteria. And I think that's kind of a unique and interesting concept that, hey, guess what? The match is 6-6, but that person has a 4 point near fall, and the committee thinks that that is harder. They're winning on criteria. Guess what?
Yeah.
Those kids they're not going to relax the last 30 seconds because they know who's winning, even if it's tied. So it might be something. I don't know. I don't see wholesale changes coming in that category, but who knows?
See,
Another 5, 10 years, it might.
Dale, I like Adam's proposal. If you're writing and you don't turn them, you don't get the point. Can you imagine 2-2? There's 30 seconds left to go. There's going to be an incentive to turn that wrestler.
Or
You
cut
know,
him and then
or
go get
cut
a
him.
takedown.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll change the dynamic. I do have a question, Dale. All the years you've been officiating, if you were to propose a new change or scoring rule, what would that be?
Ooh, I think right now the buzz is on the push out rule, step out, uh, because it makes it so. I always talk about I want things to be objective, not subjective, and because then I can tell the coach, this is the rule, objective. He stepped out first. Other guy gets 1 point. Um, Now, I believe in my stalling philosophy and all that, but guess what? Coaches don't always believe in my stalling philosophy. Parents don't always believe. But when you watch freestyle, you see, okay, whoever stepped out first, they got it. So I feel like that's gaining the most momentum. But personally, I want video review. I want, now, I don't want it at every match and every tournament. High school is too much. It will slow it down. Our state meet is already a bit redonkulous with 3 days and nonstop. And I mean, Al, you talked about being in shape and all
Mhm.
that kind of stuff. Like 3 days of 10 hours a day of officiating at a high level, your brain is
Hmm.
fried. And you have had to run the gauntlet. You have had to go to these big tournaments. You have had to push yourself both mentally and physically,
Hmm.
or else you're going to be that ref that gets their whistle pulled. You're
Hmm.
going to be that ref that in the quarterfinals, semifinals, and late day 2 or early day 3, you lose that mental lapse. And these kids are too good. They deserve
Hmm.
it. And so that's something that we try to get across to officials that 3 days is no joke. And your ability to be in shape and eat and hydrate and like I have a set thing, like I have protein and carbohydrates. And basically every time I come off the mat, I have a little bit of beef jerky or I have a little bit, and I keep my blood sugar level the whole tournament. I even wore a continuous glucose monitor during a tournament once. It was awesome. And you could see how our blood sugar and how our energy level, that 2 o'clock to 5 o'clock window where the honeymoon's over and now you're tired and you're in like 4 rounds of consolation and you're like, oh my gosh, some of these kids don't want to make weight. No one's wrestling. And you're like, this is frustrating. But you have to treat every match important or else you're going to be in the wrong place, make the wrong call, and that. So, yeah. But for me, I like video review
Hmm.
because I can like either back up or I can change my call. And Nebraska last year got permission from NFHS and they piloted it for their finals. And I I don't want to I don't know anything yet, but based off our talk last year at the state meet, I feel like our state wants to be one of the front runners in something like this. And then it'll just be a matter of when do we do it? Is it quarters? Is it semis? And is it blood round? Like to me, I think that that's good. When you don't have two officials, it could be important. And yeah, and we'll come up with some kind of system that it works for. But that
I
would be
know
my
they've
number
done
of
that.
choice.
They've done that with Folk Style State and obviously all the other freestyle and Greco state tournaments for USA Wrestling at Selland. But I think one thing though is just making sure the camera quality is there and that's something that's going to cover everything. Because there's been a couple times at Selland where I'll challenge, and I mean, I won't go into details of one, but it ended up turning into like this 15-minute long ordeal, which I was like, it's not even like
Yeah, forget it.
let's just wrestle. Like, why are we waiting? It's like now it's like a whole new match. But it was one of those things where I think as long as we have an independent reviewer, or is yeah, I mean, would we have an independent reviewer that would look at all that stuff? Because what's going to happen, I could see too, and this is kind of what was happening at Selland, is that independent reviewer is like spending X amount of time on one mat dealing with one call, and then now has to go to the other side of the arena and deal with another one. And then if refs are sometimes reviewing their own call, it's like they're kind of just going to see kind of what they saw on the mat sometimes. And I think you see that sometimes with college as well. So I think it's just trying to figure out some of the other logistical challenges, but then also to understand that nothing's going to be perfect. And as coaches and refs and parents and people on the other end got to like give a little grace. It's like, hey, we're trying this new thing to help wrestling and help make sure the calls are going to be correct on the mat. Of course, there's going to be some human error that's going to be involved with that. So I'd be very interested to see how that would work.
Yeah, as far as the number, some simple things that we can fix, especially at state. Don't put the cameras on the table because we're so limited on space. Kids are walking to and from the whole time.
They're on a
And and at the California State, the lighting is horrible. And so if you watch any videos from our state meet, everything has a glare because the mats are
Mhm.
brand new. So that, like, if the mat surface is here and the camera is there, you get that glare. Where if you put it on top of the score clock,
Mhm.
you're going to have a different angle. Now that we're doing podcasts, we talk lighting, sound, like all that
Mhm.
kind of stuff. But there's some simple fixes to that, I think. But it won't be perfect. You're right, Brian. And in college, we have the data. So it was something like only 6 to 8%, depending on the year, of NCAAs, when we reviewed our own calls, we overturned them. And so the idea of an independent reviewer was unbiased, right? Because we're all biased. We called it for a reason. Now, where video review really helps when you're a solo official and you get caught on an offside with locking hands or things like that. But one camera can only give one angle. So we do have to do that. But I think why not? Every gym in high school after COVID has a camera. They all have Wi-Fi capabilities now. Um, I, I just why not say, let's do one more thing to try to do the right thing for the kids. And and the technology's there. It would cost a little time. It might be a little extra money. I don't see an independent reviewer at the state with like 10 mats and the amount of volume. Um, but maybe I'm not, I don't know what they would do. But
Yeah.
even if they don't do an independent reviewer, you have that backup. And in college, hey, stop, coach, I'm going to look at that. Coach is like, awesome. Thank you. And then if I don't choose to look at it and do an official review, then they can throw the brick. And so they might not get the call they want, and it might not always work. Like the camera might malfunction, they might be in a wrong angle, but you can only do what you can do. And until you get to like the semifinals or NCAA finals, the Big Ten, amazing. Big Ten, they have 4 cameras for every dual meet. How, who doesn't want to work that? Like, come on. But the flip side of that is you better be one damn good official because guess what? You're you're getting scrutinized. And that's something we tell officials nowadays. You are not going to ref a match without at least 2 cameras videoing you. You got mom in the stand, you got the stat girl, you got the coach, and a lot of times you have the tournament software that's running it. You at the higher levels, you better own your stuff and you better be able to back it up. And I think that that's made officiating better, but it's also made officiating harder because
Yeah.
when I wrestled in high school, no one criticized the refs that much. Yeah, they don't have video on them. We don't have
Mhm.
video on Deerdorf and Lynn Dyke and those guys. Like we don't know. Uh,
Mhm.
they just make calls and we move on. Now, like I get emails every day. Hey, review this call. Hey, use this on blow the whistle, not the call. Connor with his tough calls on the mat, he gets hundreds, and it's been fun. And parents want that. So I feel like that to me would be the number one thing I would change, at least at some level of various different tournaments, like the blood rounds and where it really gets. I don't know. In San Diego, we don't need it very often. Maybe on a blood round or a match to go to state or maybe the finals. But it just depends. But those quarterfinals, I think at the state meet in California, holy cow, they're they're barn burners. So
Mhm.
Yeah,
let's
I'd say
video them.
that and blood rounds are like my two favorite rounds, I think, of the state tournament. Especially because it's like, all right, it's like quarterfinals, it's Friday. Like this is like the only championship round on Friday. So everybody's like all the coaches are in the little like
Yeah.
platform and everybody's kind of tuning in. And it's hard, especially when and this year I kind of found out this is the most wrestlers we've had at the state tournament. I think we had 10 or 11, but it was something where it's like, oh man, like I want to watch this match, but like I can't because I need to be back there, like with our guys. So it's kind of hard as a fan, I think, to kind of balance that. But I would be interested, like how do you kind of balance that out? Because I know you love wrestling, so it's like how do you like
Oh,
not get caught up because you have to. I gotta eat and I gotta make sure I'm ready to go when it's my turn, or
yeah.
even when you're on the mat. Like forgot there was a young kid that I don't think it was your son, but there was a young kid that was reffing, and they were new, and it was like, okay, I know they were a good wrestler, so how do you not get like caught up in the wrestling part and just still stay focused on the officiating part?
I think Al alluded to it with his work-life balance and compartmentalizing, and so uh nowadays with the 3 days, I to me it's not as big of a deal in the quarters. But when those quarters used to be Friday night and you had 12,000 people and it was insane. Like
Mhm.
I could not hear the official that I was working a mat with, let alone something else when something happens. And so you just have to know that the crowd's going to let you know when something happens somewhere.
Mhm.
But the kid in front of me deserves 100% of my focus, time, and so I just let it go. I have a rule that I don't watch any film during a tournament. So I'm so locked in. I don't even review my own calls. I don't like if I'm at the state meet Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I don't watch anything until after the state meet. And then I'll start digesting some of my stuff and going back to a couple calls. I might make notes. I might go, hey, I want to go back to this bout or this round, and I want to see. It was a bang bang. Was control established before they went out of bounds? I went with my gut. I called it. We moved on, and now I want to watch it and really analyze myself. But if I play that game, it's kind of like if you lost a wrestler, right? If you're worried about what you lost, you're not there for the next match. And so I just block it out and I'll hear it and I'll be like, oh, so like this year, you can like define state tournaments by when things go insane, like and this year, oh, somebody got ejected and it was like this full on like ninja warrior kick. Uh
Mhm.
and and the place went nuts and I had no clue it even happened. I was like 3 mats away. So I after the match or after the tournament, I had to go back and watch and kind of give my feedback and go, okay, if that was on my mat, what would I have done?
Hmm.
How would I,
Yeah.
how could I have prevented that? Like how can I take these racehorses that are not used to losing? When they lose, how can I de-escalate? And that's something that always goes through my brain. And that's not something in the rule book. But once you get to the state and college, these kids, it's a job. And you need to be able to help a 14 to an 18-year-old make good choices. And it doesn't always work, but they're 14 and 18. It doesn't excuse their behavior, but it explains it. And so I teach a long time, kids do dumb stuff. Well, now when you do dumb stuff at the state meet, everyone knows. And the same for officials. So we just try to like not get focused on it, but also use those crazy calls. And when a two-time defending state champ gets pinned, I'm not focused on that unless it's on my mat. And I just kind of do it with that and move on and go from there. But I probably will watch, I'd say 70% of the state meet. I mean, that's how much I watch wrestling, as we go through, just not during it. So mostly college, but I just keep watching matches every day. Like first thing I do at school when I go to teach, I turn on my computer, turn on Flow, and I watch two matches, and then I do my stuff. But every morning I'm watching wrestling, and I watch it from an official standpoint, and I kind of go from there. So
So I got one more question for you, Dale. Been around wrestling like you for most of our lives, and when it comes to officials, the question I'm going to ask you, and I'll tell you mine. The one official that it made a big impression on me, I've never seen this dynamic. It was back in the early 90s at Sierra Nevada. He was a collegiate rep named Fred Ambrose. I don't know if
mhm.
you remember him. This
Colorado, I
guy
think,
was
right?
like 6'4". He was chiseled, look, I mean, in shape, but the way he officiated, I had never seen. He took command of the mat, and I was one of those coaches that liked to step off my chair and get on the edge. And I remember one time he turned around, he wasn't even looking. He was like, "Sit down. This is my mat." But the way he narrated the mat, he would almost narrate the mat as it was going on and talk. And it was almost like watching that you're watching the match, but then you're watching the official. It's almost like watching two different dynamics, right? And merge into one. He probably had the most, and he did NCAs too. You couldn't
Yeah.
miss him. His body mechanics were almost like robotic, and the way he communicated and the energy he had. What official in your lifetimes made a big impression on you, where you're like, wow, I want to sort of emulate that.
Uh, Without a doubt, Randy Hartman.
Randy Hartman.
Unfortunately passed away last year, but
Hmm.
he was somebody in my second year of officiating. I got to do a tournament in Orange County, and I was the
Hmm.
new guy. And so they put me with Randy Hartman, who Big
Hmm.
12, NCAA finals, does California state meets. And I basically got babysat for a whole day by Randy.
Hmm.
And he was like, Dale, you're not bad. You got potential, but we
Hmm.
got to fix some things. And if you'll listen, I'll help you.
That's
And
awesome.
he was like, it just catapulted my career as
Mm.
far as me just shutting up and taking bits and pieces. And then, nowadays, like whether it's Matt Shorsinski that I watch at NCAAs, whether some of these people are so good. And for a long time, I looked up to California officials, and now I'm like their peers, but we hold each other accountable. And so we're all equal, but we all want to get the call right. And I think Fred was one of those people who kind of lived it and was a
Hmm.
great role model and ambassador for it. Same
Hmm.
with Randy. Randy used to always talk, Dale, this is my mat.
Hmm.
Nothing happens on this mat that I don't know about.
Hmm.
And he very businesslike, the nicest guy in the world, never cusses, never, but he's all business. And so without a doubt, he's my number one influence. And I think as you grow, now my network is bigger and I have
Hmm.
access to more people, and I feel like I can talk to people. And maybe not everybody has that ability. If you're somewhere, San Diego is not the hotbed for wrestling, minus Poway, of course. And Granite Hills now is getting a little better, but we're kind of stuck geographically. So when I travel for college, it's ridiculous. Like I got to take 2 planes, drive 3 hours, uh, but I meet these officials, and whether it's a Matt Shersinski or a Jimmy Chen from up in the Bay Area, these guys are amazing. And if you look at our NCAA officials, they're like NFL refs now.
Hmm.
All their movements are the same. Their positioning, they're dialed in. They've made it a profession and not a
That's right.
hobby. And these people treat it really, really well. And I hope that our high school in California, I think we have some amazing officials.
Hmm.
And but we all want to get better, and that's our goal. And we give each other a hard time. When I blow a call, number one, I'm the first one that knows it, and it eats me up. But I got a group of friends that will 100% hold me accountable.
Hmm.
So to be transparent, last year I was doing a Cal Baptist match, and it was their very first one. And it's the new rule where you no longer stop riding time in a rear standing on a stall. So it's kind of like our other things. So you have to stop the riding time. It's the heavyweight match, and uh, they're literally in the rideouts and return a rear standing doesn't return fast enough. I call for stalling. I even do the right signal, and they didn't stop the riding time. Now, it was only 2 seconds. That was the only differential. And at the end of the match, the other kid won by 1 second of riding time. And I'm like, holy crap, that could have made a difference.
Hmm.
Neither coach said anything, nobody there. So I didn't know. But guess what? When the match was over, Jimmy Chung was in the stands. He's our NCAA rules interpreter for the entire NCAA. Dale, you did good, minus that one call. And I'm like, what was that? And he explains, and he goes, and then it all of a sudden dawns on me. Oh my gosh, my screw up changed that match 1 second. And and I don't blame the scorers. I don't blame anybody like that. But I'm so thankful that somebody like a Jimmy Chung is in the stands I don't even know about, is willing to say, Dale, you screwed that one up. And I just had to eat it. And guess what? I will never, ever mess that one up again. Even though I did the right thing, I will make sure I circle, make sure that that riding time has clearly stopped and things like that.
Hmm.
But, that's what separates two wrestlers in the semifinals. Sometimes it's 2 seconds of thought and not reacting. The same for officiating. And so Randy Hartman, Jimmy Chung, these people, we're a small community, and it's been fun to be held accountable. And now, as I get a little older, to try to like pay that forward and try to, whether it's our up and coming state guys or new college guys, to try to get them competing, and well, not competing, but officiating at the highest level that they can handle, and continually, challenge them, but don't break them. And especially our new people, like my son's actually a really, really good ref. He's a decent wrestler, uh, but he really understands wrestling. And as he gets better, people are like, "Oh, you got to take him to this and that." I go, "Stop. He needs mat time. He needs. We want to put him in a position of success. We don't take a first-year wrestler to Doc B. They're going to go 0 and 2, and they're not getting anything out of it. So you need to like be smart, like coaches are, where they take their teams to tournaments that are, and maybe you only take one or two to this tournament. So officials have to trust that process. And Caden's been really, uh, even though he's eager and wants to do it, that there's a process. And so he's done Sierra Nevada now. He's done those. And so this year, we might throw him to the wolves with some bigger tournaments like a
Mhm.
Fresno tournament, Zinkin or something like that, or a five counties, or um, he's just 20 years old. It's hard,
Yeah.
and for a couple of years, there's still kids on the Poway team that he drilled with. And I'm like, okay, we're not doing Poway. Like we're gonna let that kind of burn for a little. And I did the same thing. I think 7 years I never did a Poway match. And now the only grief I get is in San Diego. Like I think 2 years ago I had a Poway finals match. The state doesn't care. I've done Buchanan and Poway. Troy Tirapelli doesn't care. They just want the best official, and they believe in that. And so we hopefully are moving them up in that direction and giving our younger or officials that might be ready. Like I'm always looking, okay, who's next? And that's kind of where the full circle kind of came about. Like, how do I brought Connor and Chris to the state meet. How do I take that mentorship and apply it to hundreds, if not thousands of people? And that's something that wrestling hasn't done. We have not embraced technology minus flow. I think that's changing now. I think the podcast and the short, like social media, has brought everything to focus. And wrestling is just behind. And we need to like believe in that technology and we need to embrace it. And then officials that have time, or like Brian's point, coaches, well, I might not watch the whole 10 hours, but if I have an advanced course and I got a question on stalling, I'm going to go right to that right now. And I'm going to watch 5 examples. And then he's going to go, oh, okay, that's why the ref called it. Or he's going to go, nope, now I know that ref screwed up. So we'll try it, we'll see. And hopefully people will have a good experience with it. And we just want the wrestlers to have the best experience, right? We just want them, like, my goal is to never make a mistake. It's not realistic, but the harder I work, the better I get. And that's what I want other officials to do.
Well, Dale, this was super fun, man. Before we cut it, do you have anything else?
No, I'm just super thankful for you and all the people that have been putting out content like Al. Um, Heck, Al was doing this before there was really social media,
Mhm.
and we used to get it like in a couple different quadrants, or like posted back on the California Wrestling Forum when that was
Mhm.
like. I'm super thankful that the wrestling community is adopting and supporting you guys. And like Brian, you and I talked, and I'm like, I don't really know. Like we talked like what 3 months ago when I first kind of came up with this idea, and you were like, "Which kind of goal?" And I go, "I don't know right now." But now after 3 months, I know the direction. And I can't equal what you've been putting out with content. It's amazing, and I love it. But there are thousands of wrestling stories that are amazing and I think should be told. And so whether it's a Adam Tirpelli who gets lots of press and things like that, all the way to I just released a couple. I called them the first couple of officiating from Kentucky. I've never even met them, but everybody's super nice. It's Andrew and Kristen Dennison. Here's a married couple who does high level tournaments. How awesome is that?
Mhm.
In a couple weeks, I have Wayne Brandstetter coming, my old coach, and it's going to be probably a 3 part. He's just it's not going to be short, and so we'll break it up. But we just want to tell these stories, right, and give athletes and coaches a platform in a positive way, and wrestlers, and then also officials. And so officials were a little were really positive, but then if you watch some of my blow the whistle, not the call, I also am very no, that's not what we need to do. Like we can do better and we should do better. And it's not that I don't like the official. It's not that I don't appreciate the official. I mean, I officiate freshman matches. I appreciate that freshman kid that knows nothing, that's locked hands 3 times because they put on a singlet and they went out to battle by themselves. And that's a mindset that has to change, that we have to learn to appreciate officials and learn to appreciate coaches and learn to appreciate Al for all that he does. And oh my gosh, I'm blanking right now, but who does our state rankings?
Michael
Michael
Cho.
Cho.
Oh my gosh, I have no idea how the guy, it's amazing. Like I would love to have him on. I know he's been on with you, Al and Brian, that his ability to, it's spot on.
Hmm.
Like if there's another state, Al, you would know this better than I do. Uh, I would be amazed. And this is not an easy
Sure.
state
No.
to cover just
Hmm.
because we have 1,000 high schools.
Hmm.
So these people are amazing. And I'm super thankful for them. I really want to showcase this year junior colleges because I feel like as my son never got to start at Poway, I ranked top 20 in the state, but he just wasn't good enough. They were state medalists everywhere, and but he was good. And then he turns around the next year and wins the junior college state meet. And he had such a good experience. And Coach Box and these coaches all throughout junior colleges are amazing opportunities.
Yeah.
And so I just want to promote that. And I think if Brian and I and Cali Connect and some others that we just keep being positive, the wrestling community is thankful.
Yeah.
And they forgive my lighting and audio and tech issues and all that stuff. And yeah, go
So
ahead.
Dale, I wrestle in JUCO, California Chabot College, and I'm doing a lot of work on promoting California JCs. Maybe you and I can get together and do a podcast talking
Yeah,
about that and where we're at and where we're growing. But I like to end on, hey, I appreciate what you're doing. You're a catalyst. You're a change agent. Promoting the officiating. Keep doing what you're doing. It's going to spread throughout the country, and
thank
you're
you.
going to help produce a network. Just like I said, I wake up every day. What can I do to help promote wrestling
Yeah,
and take it to another level? It's more of an intrinsic value. There's no money to be made from this. It's
yeah,
about giving back and everything I can do to just sort of create connectivity. Every article I write, I'm the hardest critic. I'm like, I can do better than that. I can do better than that.
yeah.
But I like to create connectivity where people are talking about the sport, talking about, and the same thing can be said about your officiating. So keep doing what you're doing, and I
Thank you.
appreciate it. I think
I
together
appreciate
we
it.
can really produce real connectivity throughout the country, network in a pipeline. So keep doing what
Yeah.
you're doing.
Absolutely. Anytime. Anytime. Brian, thank you very much for having me. I uh, keep doing what you're doing. You're amazing, Brian. So I'm super thankful. And hopefully we'll just promote wrestling, right? And we keep
Mhm.
keep giving these kids some shout outs and coaches shout outs and parents shout outs. And let's make it positive instead of negative. And that's my whole
Mhm.
goal.
And that was Dale Hanover with Al Fontes. Thank you guys again for tuning in. If you haven't yet, make sure you guys like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're on Spotify and all the major social media platforms. Leave a comment. Let us know what you thought of the episode, and we'll see you guys next time.